Ayun guys, halos mamatay-matay na ako sa kaba. Sa dami na ng bansang napuntahan ko, naiwan ko yung bag ko sa train.
I've always believed the best way to understand the place is simply to go there. Walk its streets, eat the food, talk to the people who actually live there. Travel has a way of turning ordinary moments into unforgettable stories. And in this series, I'm inviting you to come along for the ride. Every trip is a little different. Sometimes things go exactly as planned, and sometimes they really don't. For this journey, we're heading to an island in the Indian Ocean, a place known for ancient temples, misty mountains, colonial forts, and one of the most scenic train rides in the world, Sri Lanka. Starting in Colombo, then south to Galle, up into the cool highlands of Ella and Nuwara, Eliya, to the sacred city of Kandy, and into the ancient kingdoms of Dambulla and Anuradhapura, before finishing beneath one of Sri Lanka's most iconic landmarks, Sigiriya.
Dito na kami sa Sri Lanka and so far so good. Very comfortable experience, walang mahabang pila, mabilis, everything. Small lang yung airport nila pero it's really nice. Alam mong nami-maintain nila. And the weather right now is, dito ba? Dito pala. The weather is pretty nice. Hindi siya sobrang init.
Colombo, a city that greets you with a kind of beautiful chaos. Cars, buses, motorcycles, and the unmistakable buzzing sound of tuk-tuks, weaving through traffic like determined little insects. It's loud, it's humid, it's alive. And after a long journey, there's only one logical thing to do. Find food.
Oh my God, dito tayo sa Nana. Ang bango-bango. Hi. Hi daw. Hi boy. Speaking of the devil.
Speaking of the devil,
Guys, pinigyan niya tayo ng tabo sa balde. So dito na tayo maghuhugas.
Wow.
Wash hands before kumain. Kasi here, very common yung kumakain ka with your hand. Not your left hand, with your right hand. Only use your right hand to eat kasi the left hand means you use it for the down there. Hindi ko alam kung ano yung tamang paghugas, pero let's just, play it by ear. Ay! Nabasa yung camera.
A proper Sri Lankan welcome. Beef keema, seafood curry, kottu roti, the unofficial national comfort food of the island.
Parang siyang noodles pero al dente.
Yeah.
So technically, hindi siya noodles. Parang siyang dough.
Shredded siya na
Bread.
bread.
Hindi siya noodles. It's very similar.
And of course, rice. Always rice. For many travelers, this is the moment Sri Lanka begins to make sense. At the edge of Colombo sits Galle Face Green, a long stretch of oceanfront where locals gather in the evening to fly kites, eat street food, and watch the sun dissolve into the Indian Ocean. It's simple, uncomplicated. The kind of place where the best thing you can do is nothing at all.
We're going to Galle.
We just bought our tickets.
Just bought our tickets.
Hiningal ka ba?
Medyo lakad namin from our accommodation mga 7 to 10 minutes. It's worth it kasi masarap naman yung weather.
The next morning, we take the train south. Sri Lanka's railways have a rhythm of their own, slow enough to let you watch the coastline roll by, the ocean appearing and disappearing like a companion for the journey. A few hours later, Galle.
Okay, we arrived here in Galle Fort. It's giving Intramuros. Ngayon kakain muna tayo ng lunch sa coconut sambol. Nandito tayo ngayon sa Fort Galle sa may southern Sri Lanka. And katabi ko ngayon isang cannon from the old times. So this used to be a Portuguese fort. And eventually, na-fortify siya ng mga Dutch. And what's amazing about this place is, hindi siya parang museum. It's still alive. Puro shops, puro mga tourists na nandito. Makakompare mo siya sa Intramuros. It's very walkable and it has a really nice vibe.
Galle Fort is one of those places where history refuses to stay in the past. Built by the Portuguese in the 16th century, reinforced by the Dutch, and still very much alive today. Unlike many colonial forts, this one isn't a museum. People live here. Inside the walls, you'll find cafes, shops, churches, and quiet streets that feel strangely familiar. For a Filipino traveler, it's hard not to think of Intramuros.
Okay, ngayon nandito tayo sa Church Street. So dito sa Church Street na to, tabi-tabi yung mga churches. Merong Anglican Church, merong Dutch Reformed Church. Meron din yung library something.
Yes, called library.
Saka yung saint, may saint na sinabi.
Ito yun yung Anglican Church.
Saint something. Sorry, we just paste it. 2 days in Sri Lanka, wala pa rin kami nakikitang Lanka.
Oo nga.
After exploring Galle Fort, it was time to head back to Colombo. The air-conditioned bus was gone, so we took the local one instead. Not the most comfortable ride, but definitely the more interesting one.
Dito kami ngayon sa bus sa Colombo. Mukha siyang jeepney na malaki. Giant jeep.
Ordinary lang sa...
Yeah. Dapat sasakay kami din sa aircon pero wala na daw service eh. So dito na, wala kami choice.
Back in Colombo, the day wasn't over yet, because today also happened to be my birthday. So we celebrated the best way possible with a proper Sri Lankan dinner at Ceylon Curry Club.
Nandito tayo sa Ceylon Curry Club. Order chicken skewers, tapos rice, different kinds. Ano to? Brinjal. Di ko, sorry. Yeah, di ko memorize.
Sambal, mga veggies,
Yun.
beef,
Yeah, beef curry.
Birthday dinner called for something proper: rice with a lineup of Sri Lankan curries, slow-cooked beef curry, and spicy chicken skewers. And to top it off, a coconut creme brulee on the house. The next morning, the city reveals another layer of itself. Peta Market. Dense, colorful, endlessly energetic. This is where the city moves fastest. Traders shouting, scooters squeezing through impossible gaps, and centuries of culture colliding on every corner.
Okay, good morning. Nandito kami ngayon sa Peta Market. Specifically on the way to Jamil
Alfar
Mosque.
In the middle of Peta's busy streets stands the Jami-ul Alfar Mosque, a century-old landmark known for its bold red and white stripes, designed so sailors approaching Colombo could spot it from the sea. And then suddenly, silence.
Andito tayo ngayon sa tapat ng Gangamaraya Temple sa Sri Lanka, Colombo. It's one of the most important Buddhist temples dito sa Sri Lanka. And it was built in the 1900s. Meron siyang mix ng Thai, Indian, saka Chinese architectural styles. And it functions as a museum, temple, and learning center na rin. It houses hundreds of collections of Buddha statues. And the museum, it's a very eclectic mix of different relics from ancient up to the modern times.
Okay, right now we're inside Gangamaraya Temple. So, low voice now. Gangaramaya Temple, one of Colombo's most important Buddhist temples. Inside are hundreds of statues, relics, and artifacts. A collection that feels almost overwhelming. But temples like this are not just museums. They're living spaces of devotion. Places where the noise of the outside world simply disappears. If there's one journey that defines Sri Lanka, it's this one. The train through the Highlands. Tea plantations stretch across the hills like green waves. Villages appear and vanish in the fog. And for a few hours, the world moves at the perfect speed. Okay, we just arrived dito sa Ambuluwawa station to the scenic train ride across the Highlands. And we saw yung mga tea plantations, mga forest. Ang ganda. Very scenic, highly recommended. Hanap muna kami ng kakainan, then transfer to Nuwara, Eliya. In Nuwara, Eliya, we found Temparado, a cozy spot serving creative Sri Lankan comfort food. The spicy pot, honey-glazed chicken in the bee, and an unexpected creamy kottu carbonara. At the top of the hills lies Nuwara Eliya, sometimes called Little England. The British built this town as a cool escape from the tropical heat below. Colonial buildings, English gardens, and tea, lots of tea. Even Queen Elizabeth once stayed here. Though today, the real luxury is simply sitting down with a cup of Ceylon tea while the mountain air drifts quietly through the hills. Hidden deep in the jungle near Ella is one of Sri Lanka's most iconic landmarks, Nine Arch Bridge.
So fun fact, dito sa railway sa Sri Lanka, medyo malapad yung pagitan ng dalawang riles as compared sa Asia, sa atin sa Pilipinas. Ang tawag dito, broad gauge. Ito yung ginagamit na gauge sa India, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, tsaka Bangladesh. Yung sa atin naman ang tawag narrow gauge.
Built during the British colonial period, the bridge curves gracefully through the valley, framed by thick forest and tea plantations. It's the kind of place that feels almost unreal, as if it were built specifically for travelers to stand here and wonder how something so simple can look so perfect. Further north lies Kandy, a city wrapped around the lake and steeped in spiritual importance.
Okay, nandito na tayo sa Kandy, Kingdom of Kandy.
But first, a stop at Mandiya, a humble local restaurant serving up seriously good Sri Lankan food.
So dito kami kakain sa loob ng, I think, shopping complex. Ang pangalan niya is Mandia and I've heard a lot of good things. So let's try it.
Plates of fragrant rice, rich curries, and fiery sambols. Simple, comforting, and packed with flavor. The kind of meal that reminds you some of the best food in a country often comes from the most unassuming places. And in a city where everyday life and tradition are so closely intertwined, it's only a short walk from a great meal to one of the most sacred sites in all of Buddhism, the Temple of the Sacred Tooth Relic. Inside the temple, pilgrims gather quietly. Prayers whispered, flowers offered. For many Sri Lankans, this place represents centuries of faith, history, and identity. As night falls in Kandy, another side of the city's traditions comes alive. At the Kandy Lake Club Cultural Show, centuries-old Kandian dance takes the stage. Rhythmic drumming, elaborate costumes, and movements that trace their roots back to royal courts and temple rituals. The performance builds slowly, drums growing louder, dancers spinning faster, until it all culminates in the most dramatic moment of the night: fire. And then, there are the places that test your courage. Ambuluwawa Tower.
Andito po ako ngayon sa tapat ng Ambuluwawa Tower palapit sa Kandy, Sri Lanka. And isa siyang mataas na tower with a spiral staircase paakyat na meron kang 360-degree view ng mga mountains around dito sa central area ng Sri Lanka. And what's interesting dito sa tower na to is yung spiral staircase niya habang umaakyat, huminipis. So medyo nakakatakot kapag aakyat ka. Pero we don't back down from a challenge, so let's try it.
At first, it looks harmless enough.
So far, so good. Nandito pa tayo sa pinakababa. So in fairness, ngayon hindi masyado maraming tao. Pero ang nakikita ko sa mga vlogs, napupuno daw to. Pakita lang natin yung view natin ngayon, no? Ang ganda! So meron kang 360 views, pero hindi tayo makapunta sa kabilang side. Pag-akyat na lang. What you can see here, itong, ano kasi pangalan to? No, Gambola, ano? Yung inahapakan mo dito, medyo paslant siya. So parang mahuhulog ka na pa ganun.
But the higher you climb, the narrower the staircase becomes.
Ala, ang sikip. Ganun na lang siya. Siksikan. Hindi ka talaga makakadaan pag dalawa kayo. So meron kang pwedeng pagstayan kapag may kasalubong ka. Hindi ako kasya.
Until eventually, the only way forward is sideways.
Oh my God.
One careful step at a time, with a long drop waiting just beyond the railing.
Ay, ito na ata to. So, na-reach na ko na ang top. Huh?
But at the top, the view reminds you exactly why you climbed in the first place.
So yun, we finally conquered Ambuluwawa Tower. Grabe, nakakatakot siya. Kasi una magsa-start siya na medyo normal lang, tapos pasikip ng pasikip. Until hindi ka na pwedeng dumiretso, kailangan mo na talaga mag-side. And ang problema pa doon, may mga sumasalubong sa'yo, yung mga bumababa na. So talagang bigayan siya, but I'm really glad we pushed through with it.
Sri Lanka's history stretches back thousands of years. And before heading to Dambulla, we started the morning with breakfast at Hela Bojun Hala, a local food hall known for traditional Sri Lankan dishes prepared right in front of you. Simple things, freshly made pitu, curries, and local snacks. The kind of food that fuels a long day of exploring.
Ang tawag dito is Hela Bojun. I think para siyang co-op na mga women na nagluluto. And you just choose what you like, tapos sasabihin mo sa cashier, and yung gusto mo, tapos babayaran mo, then babalikan mo siya and get your food. So ang kinuha ko dito is mushroom samosa, and huwag yung tatawanan, cheese pizza. And ito yung interesting sa akin, mani pitu. So, napansin ko, pitu, it's very similar to puto ng Philippines. So, pag sinearch mo, parehas silang gawa sa rice batter. So, I think parehas yung origins ng pitu at puto. Pero yung sa kanila, medyo crumbly ng konti. Pero ganun din springy. Tapos, in-steam din siya.
Not far from there lies Dambulla, a complex of cave temples carved into the rock, filled with hundreds of Buddha statues and ancient paintings. For over 2 millennia, pilgrims have climbed this same hill, seeking the same quiet sense of peace.
Nandito tayo ngayon sa Dambulla Cave Temples, and this is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It is more than 2,000 years old. Ganun na siya katanda. And punong-puno siya ng mga Buddha statues at mga colorful cave paintings. And what's impressive is yung ilan dito sa mga Buddha dito, kinarve mismo sa mismong bato ng cave na to. And yung mga iba in-assemble na lang dito. And it's one of the most sacred and impressive sites dito sa Sri Lanka.
Further north lies Anuradhapura, one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in the world. Here, enormous stupas rise above the trees like white mountains. Monks chant softly, pilgrims circle the temples in prayer. And at the center of it all stands the Sri Mahabodhi tree, a sacred fig tree believed to be grown from a branch of the very tree under which Buddha attained enlightenment. For many Sri Lankans, this is the spiritual heart of the island. Further south, rising abruptly from the jungle floor, is one of Sri Lanka's most famous landmarks, Sigiriya, a massive column of rock nearly 200 meters high. Built in the 5th century as a royal fortress by King Kashyapa, at the top once stood a palace, gardens, pools, and walls painted with vibrant frescoes that have survived more than 1,000 years. Today, travelers climb nearly 1,200 steps to reach the summit. But sometimes, the journey has other plans. After days of temples, mountains, trains, and endless miles on the road, exhaustion finally caught up with us. And for the first time on this trip, we decided not to push further. Instead, we stayed below, watching the rock from a distance. Sometimes, travel is about reaching the top. And sometimes, it's about knowing when to stop, sit down, and simply take in the moment. With Sigiriya towering quietly in the background, a reminder that some places don't need to be conquered to be appreciated. After days of Sri Lankan curries and fiery spices, something unexpected happened. We started craving Filipino food, not a passing thought, a full-on homesick craving for garlic rice, pork, and something fried to a dangerously crispy level. And somehow, in the middle of Colombo, we found it. A small restaurant called Pinoy Foods and Barbecue. Now technically speaking, this might be the best Filipino restaurant in all of Sri Lanka. Though to be fair, it might also be the only Filipino restaurant in all of Sri Lanka. We ordered 2 classics, lechon kawali, deep-fried pork belly with that perfect crispy skin, and Bicol Express, pork simmered in coconut milk and chilies, and to finish, an ube milkshake. Thousands of miles from home, and somehow, it tasted exactly like it should. just like that, my trip around Sri Lanka has come to an end. Back in Colombo, watching the sun fall once again over the Indian Ocean. Sri Lanka is a country where ancient temples, misty mountains, colonial forts, and vibrant cities all exist with a surprisingly small island. But what stays with you isn't just the places, it's the feeling of the journey itself, and the quiet realization that sometimes the most unforgettable adventures begin with something as simple as a lost bag on a train.